There was a creature in Shetland that had no name, because no one knew how to name it. For when you saw it, you saw the most terrifying thing you could ever imagine. Do you know that feeling when you're in bed and you're about to fall asleep and everything is silent? And then just as your eyes went shut and you're far out of consciousness, you hear a noise and your eyes open to see nothing but the dark room around you. Your heart is beating your chest and you know you're not alone. You know there's something there. And your mind flashes the most terrifying ideas, the most horrible thing you can envisage walking into your bedroom at that moment, or standing already there in the corner. If you could see that thing, that's what this monster was. For every person who saw it described it as the most terrifying thing they could ever imagine. One man saw it and described it like a body that had been washed up on a beach after weeks of being out on the waves. Skin rotted off and the fat and flesh beneath starting to go green and mouldy, and the smell of death coming off of it, like if it touched you, you too would start to wither and rot. One woman saw it and said she saw like a black cloud that moved not like smoke or a cloud in the sky, it moved erratically like it would almost shudder into an area. And it was constantly billowing over on itself, and although it sounded just like a cloud to your eyes, she said when she saw it, she felt dread inside, like that was something there to signify the end, and there was nothing more. Other folk saw it and described creatures never seen before in Shetland or seen by Shetlanders themselves. Things that don't exist on this earth or in this realm. And one night, always around Yule time, 2 men and a woman were walking home after visiting. There was no full moon, so they had a tilly lamp and oil lamp in their hands to help them guide their way home after visiting. They're slightly full, and as they're walking through the lonely dark hills, no near any trowie nows, no near any burns where the nuggles, the water kelpies, lie in wait. They were on a hill that during the day would be the most pleasant, lovely meadow, full of flowers and beautiful. And at night it wasn't known to be haunted or frequented by anything sinister. But then one man heard footsteps, and the woman heard a kind of sound like something dragging itself over the ground, and the other man heard like a beating of wings, all coming from the same direction. They shone the light out on it, and each person screamed, and they all ran home, hearing the footsteps or the beating of wings or the dragging follow them until they ran, and the noises got further and further back in the distance. When they came to the house, they told the folk at the house they were at what they'd seen, and they all looked at each other as each person described it differently. One man had seen a beast like the devil himself. The footsteps were like the hooves of Satan, half a goat and half a man with burning eyes. The woman had seen a corpse dragging itself to her like it would not die, and the third man had seen a creature he could hardly explain. It had the wings, but they were scaled like a fish, and its mouth had layer upon layer upon layer of teeth. Everyone had seen a different monster. Not knowing what its name was, where it was found, what it did, it began to be known just simply as it. And it wasn't just belonging in that meadow, it moved around that Highlands of Shetland. most notably seen around Yule in the dark depth recesses of winter. Folk would see it, but not just at night. Unlike the trolls or other magical creatures, it would come out even in the sunlight. So folk would know they were not in a nightmare, it was a waking, living terror as they were walking about their business, travelling, walking, working. And it would come over the horizon towards them, and they dropped whatever they're working for and had to run away in fear. Eventually folk couldn't bear it anymore, for this creature was coming to man and woman and child alike, bringing their most vivid fear right in front of their eyes. They started to speak out where it moved from parish to parish, area to area. And eventually a group of folk came together at a meeting, a thing, to speak about it. They said around the community, around the parish, they'd have a meeting that Saturday. And come the Saturday, with their folk for not just that parish, for all over Shetland arrived to talk about this monster, this creature they'd seen. For folk were desperate to get rid of this, to get rid of it. Following its path, it seemed to move almost like against the sun, like an anti-clockwise movement appearing in different parts of Shetland around every Christmas time. And one man, a reckoning by now, it would be arriving towards the south end of Shetland, went down to an area called Quarf, and nestled there in Western Quarf Valley, pretty sure that it would be appearing around there that winter. He waited with an axe and a Bible as his only two weapons, determined to kill it and be rid of it once and all. He spent the days around Yuletime staying in houses there and walking through the hills at night. And then one night, just like any other, he was vigilant, peering into the dark, trying to see if he could hear it. But it was like any other night, then all of a sudden, shivers ran up his back and all his hair stood on end. And he knew when he turned around, he would see it, for it was behind him, making a noise that was unhuman. Didn't even sound alive, yet it was moving and somehow breathing near him. He could hear it getting closer, but how it was moving he couldn't explain, and he didn't want to turn around, for he knew he would see the hellish beast that was his own fears. So he started to run away from it, up and up and up the steep hills of Westerquarf. He was running up hills so steep every now and then he'd use his hands as well, trying to hold on to his axe and his Bible. He was marking his way up the hill. He got to the top along the long ridge of hill with a sudden drop down to the North Atlantic. And when he was at the top of this hill, he realised he couldn't keep running for it. He was here to fight it. So he turned around and he threw the axe towards the dark shape as it started to illuminate his nightmares. He cried God's name and seined himself in front of the beast, and the beast screamed and screeched and fell over there on the spot with the axe in it and the word of God being its last breath. The man ran down the hill to tell folk what had happened, so other folk came up and they all looked at this creature. People each describing a different horrible beast or vision by their eyesight. And the man, still panting for the effort of killing it and getting the others, said, "Dunna look at it. Get it buried. It's dead now, get it buried." So they all started digging great fells of turf up from the ground and laying big slabs of it, for no one dared to touch this creature to move it to a grave. So instead they just built a mound over its body. They worked until the sun was up, so they'd been there for hours and hours. And as the sun showed their work, slab after slab after slab of earth had been laid over it, so not even a hair or a bit of flesh or whatever he would have seen on it was showing. And with that the folk made their way home. But the folk of Westerquarf weren't happy to have this creature just on the hill above them, even if it was dead. They said it would need to be rid of it, burnt, or have a priest come and saying o'er the sight and condemn it back to hell. So one of the older men of Westerquhar said he would go up and see to it to burn it. So he went up with some kindling and a flim and headed to the top of the hill. And there he came across the mound that had been built just days afore by Aldermain. So he started to remove the fells of earth, just enough so he could get in and set fire to it. And just as he removed the last fell to see the monstrosity that they'd buried afore, smoke already started billowing out. He thought, what is this? Was it already set alight? Then he stepped back as he realised a dark cloud came out and floated up in the air. And for a second he thought it would continue rising as any smoke would for a fire. And when he looked into it, there was like light, like eyes, but 3 of them, just light staring back at him. And the man thought his heart was going to stop right there for fear of looking at it. And then impossibly the smoke moved down to the ground, travelled along the banks of Westerquhar and made its way down into the sea. And he ran to the edge and looked as the smoke disappeared into the water and moved away until it couldn't be traced anymore. And that was the last time anybody had seen it in Shetland. But they know for sure it's still out there somewhere. So that was that, and that's that.